Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. We're looking at chapter 16, verse 120 as we continue through the chapter 16. We're on verse 120. And as usual, we're addressing the Mali students. These are verses that you all will be looking at in the classes, writing reflections and comments to the verses. So, see, today might be quite a bit, perhaps. Let us begin. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan. Surely Ibrahim, or Abraham, if we translate it, was, is, and will be. When kana is used in the past tense, it has the connotation that it's also present and future. So Abraham was, is, and will be ummatan. Ummatan, this word we know as community. We know this word as community. Ummatan. Qanitan, we could say devout, obedient. Lillahi, to Allah. Hanifan, also Hanifan, one who is upright, one who is inclined to do what is right. Hanifan, upright, we could say. Walam yaku, and he yaku, this is kana in the jussive. So he was not, he is not, and he will not be. Lam yaku min al-mushrikeen, of the polytheists, those who associate others with God, who make associations with God, al-mushrikeen. Now, this verse, the crux of this verse, we talk about in the class now, is all about Ibrahim. Ibrahim. And it's about Ibrahim being a community. Everything else comes back to this idea in context. So I've underlined the key words. If we were to define Ibrahim in the context of this verse, and these key words are included in defining Ibrahim or Abraham. He's ummatan, he's a community. Ummatan defines Abraham. Qanitan defines Abraham. Hanifan defines Abraham. Mushrikeen, which will be in the opposite, defines Abraham. So when we make the word field, W-O-R-D-F-I-E-L-D, word field, and this to define Abraham in context of this verse, these are the words that are used. And then we can take this and make a sentence of this with these words here, using these words to define Abraham. And this is, you'll find this throughout the Quran. As we've been making presentations, I know in the past I have made presentations. We'll go look at other verses with Abraham in it, the key words. You can create this word field. If you want to see the conceptual idea of Abraham, the Quranic conceptual idea of Abraham, we just take more key words in verses where Abraham appeared, and we can take those words, draw them out, and have a conceptual idea of Abraham based upon the Quran. That's why we say the Quran defines itself. The best dictionary of the Quran is the Quran. But it requires that you learn how to read. Not just seeing words, but how to see all of these words. These words joined together giving us the conceptual idea of Abraham. Then you're reading with comprehension. You're reading words in context. The same as if I want to take this keyword, ummah, to define ummah. In the context of this verse, ummah would be qanitan, hanifan, al-mushrikeen. In the context, the same for the other words. But this is about Abraham. Now we're going to look at our sources. Look at our sources, then come back to the verse. As students come back to the verse, look at the verse again and try to hold the ideas, the connecting ideas from the sources as you look at the verse. This, in this case, we will call it reflection. Then reflect on the verse. As we go through, reflect back on the verse. Then, after looking at what the scholars here have said, then you will have something to say. So, in our first step, let us look at ummah, al-ummatu, in defining al-ummatu, which is one of the key words. So, al-ummatu is kullu jama'atin. Each or every jama'ah. You may have heard this word jama'ah. Each and every jama'ah, group, gathering. This jama'ah, gathering. Gathering or group. It's every gathering or group. It's called an ummah. Every gathering or group is an ummah. Yajma'uhum, continuing with the understanding of it, Yajma'uhum, it gathers them, amru ma, the situation of whatever it is, it gathers them. Imma, whether it's dinun wahidun, if it's one religion that gathers them, or zamanun wahidun, or one time gathers them, or makanun wahidun, one place gathers them, brings them together. One religion brings them together to form a group. One time brings them together to form a group. One place brings them together to form a group. So it is the same. Kana dhalika al-amru al-jami'u. That is the same whether that joining situation, taskhiran, bringing them together under subjugation, forcing them to be together, or ikhtiyaran, or if they join or come together under conditions of religion, time, or place, by choice. Well, jam'uha is gathering. Jam'u. This is the same word for plural. And this gathering is three or more. Because jam'u is three or more. The same word we get jumu'at from. Jumu'at is three or more. That's why we say that jumu'at, it consists of three or more. So if it's three or more, we know the saying of the prophet, the present peace be upon him, one of them should be the leader. Choose one as the leader. If we keep it in context with what we've been talking about in this verse, of the three, one of them should be the shaheed of the group, meaning that he sees better than the other two. The one who sees better, and the one who could see better in terms of the situation that brings them together should be the leader, the shaheed. So this jam'uha, this gathering, is called an ummah. If it's three of you, it's an ummah. It's an ummah. 3 or more. وَقَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, and his saying, the Most High, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ, and what is from the crawling creatures. I'm going to translate that back in this sense. In the earth, وَلَا طَائِرٍ, so it is not from the crawling creatures, or what is from the crawling creatures, nor the ta'irin, a bird, yatiru, it flies, by his 2 wings. And I think we've had this word bird. I know we've had it in the class. That have wings and flies in the air. But just to keep it simple, birds. Crawling creatures or birds. Illa umamun. They are only an umamun and falukum, similar to you. They're umamun. So we can see this concept. If we look at now this is a Quranic concept that we're getting, you will get it, of the word ummah. This is the Quranic concept. So you can see ummah is not restricted to the group that formed themselves ideologically under the leadership of Muhammad the Prophet, the President, peace be upon him. It's not restricted to that sense, ummah. We can see that ummah here being defined by Ragib. And Quran is the gathering of 3 or more, based upon, we could say, the situation that has brought them together. This is the ummah. Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan. Now, Ibn Arabi, we're looking at Ibn Arabi, and we're contrasting Ibn Arabi with Imam W.D. Muhammad. So Ibn Arabi is going to comment on this portion, Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan, which we have translated. I know I'm speaking to the Mahdi students. And I know if I don't translate this again, I know they can get it. I know they will get it. And those of you who may not be familiar with Quranic Arabic or Arabic in this sense, you still will benefit from the English that I'm speaking. But this is a part of the class for Mali students, and it's quite a few students, great number of students. So, Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan. So Ibn Arabi says, one of the great thinkers in the history of Al-Islam, Ibn Arabi, one of the great philosophical thinkers. Qad marra, he says, qad marra, it has passed. Anna that kulla nabiyyin, that every prophet, yab'athu, now let's look at this word we've had. Yab'athu, who influences. He who influences and orientates. Who influences and orientates. Gives direction. Fi qawmi, amongst or in a people. This is we're talking about Ibrahim and Ummah. So any prophet whose influence is in a people, we could say. He has been sent, but he has this influence. I listened to a lecture, a couple of weeks ago maybe, and the highly scholarly woman, Jeanette Hablullah, very scholarly. In her speech, she was saying to this, I have to put it in my words, but if I say it, she knows I'm getting it from her, anyone that was present. That Ibrahim is this person who people are attracted to. They're attracted to him, and being attracted to him, they begin to take on his qualities, his attributes. Thereby, we can say that Ibrahim is this ummah. These people are following him, taking on his attributes, is this ummah. And every prophet, he is delegated. He is delegated amongst his people, that you will find that the people take on the qualities and attributes of that leader. The same in small groups. You could be a small group, and in that group, you'll see that the people in that group, it could be 10 of you. They'll begin to recognize the leader in that group, and you will see them begin to take on the qualities and attributes of that person. To the extent we could say that person is the community. So Yakunu Kamaluhu, his perfections, the prophet, every prophet, he not only influences, but he gives direction. He orientates the people. His influence gives the people that orientation of life. So his perfections become inclusive, all inclusive for the gathering of the perfections of his community. لِجَمِيعِ كَمَالَاتِ أُمَّتِهِ. So his perfections becomes really the perfections of the community. It's his perfections, because they're taking on the qualities, the attributes of Ibrahim. وَجَايَةٍ, and goal. His goal becomes their goal. His orientation becomes their orientation. His objective becomes their objective. His perfections becomes their perfections. Yes. Here in the context of Ibrahim, لا يمكن لأمته الوصول, and the attainment is not possible. لا يمكن, for his community. The attainment of the community in terms of perfections, we could say, in terms of the goal of the community, is not possible. إلى رتبة, to any degree, إلا وهي دونه. If it is, we can say, without him. Yes. Now, we can take this principle that we're reading here, though here we're talking about Abraham. This principle applies to any jama'ah that's gathered for a certain situation or purpose, that recognizes a leader in that group for that purpose, for that situation. And you will find that the people begin to take on, they're influenced by the person that they choose as the leader. So, for example, let me give you an example that you will see right away. I know who's in my audience. So, if you are saying you are in the jama'ah, the jama'ah of Imam W.D. Muhammad, you're part of that jama'ah. You're part of that group. And he's the leader of that group. And you find that he's a very strong leader in the group. That he influences the group. He's amongst the people. He's one of the people. But Yabathu also means to awaken or even to rise. He rises up in the group as the leader of the group. you'll begin to find that members of that group will begin to take on the attributes and qualities of Imam W.D. Muhammad, to the extent some of them even mimic him. That's how strong his influence, the influence is. They will mimic him. But other things you will find in the group that have been taken on because of his presence. For example, we were at a dinner and we was at the convention. And there was a Christian leader, Christian woman. She's a Christian woman and a leader in her Jama'ah. And she was a guest. And she was speaking. And she says, I have been with this man this weekend, and I noticed I have not seen a peacock in the group. Now, if you're African American, you know what a peacock is. You're in a group. You're at a convention, a major convention of the group. This group saying they follow Imam W.D. Muhammad. But you don't find a peacock. People showing off, loud clothes, looking rich. In a group, she said, I don't see that. This was something her eyes. See, we may be in a group and not notice because it was gradual for us to get to that situation, to that state. It was gradual. Because the Imam didn't command it. He didn't tell us how to dress or how not to dress. He wasn't a commander, but it was his personality. Because of his way. Because of his virtues in terms of the way he dressed and the way he was teaching. Gradually, you saw the influence in the group. The whole group she saw. But if you go to another religious gathering, you'll see peacocks. Yes. So that's an example. If you look at Minister Farrakhan, big leader, he has a Jama'ah. There's a group of people he has influenced over the years. And this is not in a short time, we said over the years. And when you visit the group, you will see that the people of that group have taken on the characteristics of Minister Farrakhan. Because he's the leader of that group. The principle applies there. But Ibrahim is a big leader. He's not the leader of three or more. He's not the leader of a small group. Ibrahim is a big leader. Was, is, and still, and will be. A ummah. See, so we say Farrakhan is the ummah. Minister Farrakhan, let me give him right respect. Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. See, if you find his people refer to him as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, I shouldn't say, and this is another verse one day, I shouldn't say he's not the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. I should say the Honorable Minister Farrakhan and treat him with that same honor I find his followers treating him. Though I may not be a follower. I don't have to say, oh, I don't have to call him honorable because I don't follow him. I'm not part of his Jama'ah. So I'm not going to refer to him as something of honor. No, that's disrespectful. That's small thinking. If they refer to him, you see, all of them refer to him as minister, as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, then I will refer to him as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. If I slip up and say Farrakhan, that's my ignorance. That's my uncouthness. It's not for me. I'm not saying I don't accept him as not being an honorable person. No. And I don't have to say I'm not a member of his group. I don't have to say that. But if you see the people treating a person a certain way, you have no right to come in that group and treat him differently. It's disrespectful. If you walk in a person's house and you see the people of the house giving that person certain respect in that house, you should give him the same respect in that house. You shouldn't come in the house, oh, I don't have to show that respect. I don't have to do that. No. So anyways, so The Honorable Minister Farrakhan, if I can get back to my thought, he's a leader, a Jama'ah. Imam W.D. Muhammad is a Jama'ah. But they're not like Abraham in terms of Jama'ah. Because all the people, if you notice, all the religious people love Abraham. Everybody wants to be like Abraham. Everybody wants the virtues. Everybody wants the characteristics. Everybody wants the description. Everybody wants to be like Abraham. The Jews want to be like Abraham. The Christians want to be like Abraham. The Muslims want to be like Abraham. Everybody wants to, these religious people want to be like Abraham. They even some call themselves the Abrahamic faith. All of these people belong to Abraham as the Ummah. Look how big the Ummah of Abraham is. The Jama'ah of Abraham. What kind of man was this? See, all the Muslims don't claim to be Christians, the followers of Jesus. All of the Jews don't agree to be followers of Muhammad, and vice versa. But everybody loves Abraham. Nobody speaks bad of Abraham. Think about it. The Christians, the Muslims, the Jews, nobody to this day speaks bad of Abraham. Abraham was and is an ummah. Now, how are we defining this ummah? Qanitan, Hanifan, Minab, and Lam, Mushrikin. This defines ummah. These words define ummah. These have to be the principle in the community of Abraham. I hope you follow. Like I said, it's going to take a little time today, maybe. So the same with others who are leaders. And this may help some of us who are in the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad. It might help us to understand this, to see this. It's no one person. Now, if you're a person within the community of Abraham, like Jesus is within the community of Abraham, but he's also a community himself within the community of Abraham. We can say that, can't we? Moses is within the community of Abraham and a community himself within the community of Abraham. We can say that. Muhammad is a community within the community of Abraham. We can say that. Therefore, we can say that there can be communities within the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad. That's autonomous. I hope you get it. That's autonomous, though they're all a part of the bigger community of Imam W.D. Muhammad. And if you begin to shine within this community spoken of, and you draw many people within the community of W.D. Muhammad, that they begin to take on your virtues and recognize you, then so be it. We can't, these are natural things. You can't change it. But you can't force and make someone wanting you to be like Abraham. I'm going to be Abraham. Oh, y'all accept. No, it's not like that. If you understand Abraham, which we're going to see, and so forth, the principle. We look at this principle. You can't force it on someone. No. Because there is no taskhiran in religion. There's no force. Okay. So Imam W.D. Muhammad says to this, even Abraham is a plural body, not a single man. He represents a movement in people that God inspired. Who are these people? Think about it. He represents a movement in people that God inspires. It's Abraham. So look, the students, look, we're contrasting the Imam and Ibn Arabi. I'm saying a lot. But when we get back to class, we're going to narrow it down to what the two are saying. You can see it now, if you'd like to see it now. The next is Qarnitan. We're saying Qarnitan. Qarnitan is from Al-Qunut. Qarnitan is derived from, the meaning is derived from Al-Qunut. He's given us the root meanings of these words, the root meanings. And the meaning is Luzumu at-ta'ati. It's the necessity of obedience. Al-Qunut is the necessity of obedience. Obedience is necessary. Ma'a with al-khudu'i. With, we could say, humility. This is al-Qunut. So Abraham had to be someone of obedience and humility. And if you're following the way of Abraham, which we have said, all the religious people follow the way of Abraham, then there has to be. It is necessary that you be obedient, and it's necessary that you be obedient with humility. So now, Ibn Arabi says, let me get my pen. Qanitan lillahi muti'an lahu. So his qunut, this obedience and this humility is for Allah. As one who is obedient to him. Muti'an lahu. Munqadan and submissive. We could say submissive بحيث لا يتحرك منه شعرة. That we're saying that he's submissive, right? We could say as inasmuch as a hair, sha'ratun, the subject of the verb. A hair does not move from him. A hair does not move from him. Illa except bi-amrihi, by his command, by the command of Allah, because of his obedience to Allah. Li-istila'i sultani at-tawhid, for the appropriation of the authority of oneness. Alayhi, that's upon him, upon Abraham. The authority of oneness that he's obligated towards. Not a hair moves due to his obedience and his humility. Submission. This is Qarnitan. This is defining Qarnitan by Ibn Arabi. Where Mahwi, he says, and the alliteration, sifati, of his qualities, of his attributes, of his personality. Be sifati, for the personality of Allah, the qualities of Allah, the attributes of Allah. Yes. Let's look at this in this light. I'm saying a little more today than what's written. I was reading in the Quran, Tanzila al-Aziz, the revelation of al-Aziz, the powerful, the strong. That when the revelation comes to the prophet, and if we think of Muhammad the prophet, the President, peace be upon him, when revelation comes to him, It's coming from Allah, and Allah is Al-Aziz. Allah is so strong. Now we're talking about Sifatihi, be Sifati. He is so strong. The revelation is so strong. And it's so dominant on the being of Muhammad the Prophet that it subdues all of his attributes. That he gives up, it liberates all of the Prophet's attributes and really personality, that when the message is given, Muhammad the Prophet don't put his own characteristics is not in it. His own thinking is not in it. His own soul is not in it, because the revelation is too strong. It dominates all of that in Muhammad the Prophet. That when the Quran is revealed, when he gives the Quran, it's not, he don't have his opinion mixed up with it. His soul didn't interfere with it. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So this is Abraham. He becomes so obedient. He becomes so obedient that all of his qualities, all of what has influenced his soul, he gives it up for the qualities, the attributes of Allah, Sifat. And Allah has the best attributes. We say, and to him are the best names. To him belong all the names, but he has the best names, the best. And Abraham is one of those who take on the qualities of those names in the human form. Yes. Now, I have to say, because I know some of you, if you're not following well, before you can, now I can say it like this now, before you can get into this class, before you can get into this level of Mali, because I'm talking to a Mali class. I'm not preaching to just anyone. I'm not preaching to the world or whatever. I'm talking to the Mali students. Before you get to this level in Mali, and this is where the students are, in Mali, you have to understand Tanzih. And what is Tanzih? That is, you have to be clear of making any associations with Allah. That's Tanzih. Subhanallah. We say Subhanallah. You have to have that. Because if you don't have that, and you're in this class, you may think we're committing shirk. So you have to have that. And you have to be able to reflect that I don't have to qualify every statement. You have to have that to get to this level of study. To come in the door in this class. Or else you have to be a visitor on the outside. And we allow guests and visitors. Our classes are not closed. But to participate, you have to have that. Or else you may not be at this level. You may not be at this station in life to study this. Well, ittihadihi, and his unification, bizatihi, is by his being, his existence, the existence of Allah. This is Abraham. When we have that, and to this Sumiyah Khalilullah, he is named the friend of Allah. You see, all of this is being said, and this is very broad language. Someone else could translate this a different way. It's very broad in the language. But if you can capture the idea of what's being said about Qarnitan, that Abraham is Qarnitan, to the point you would almost say he's saying Abraham is Allah in the person. No, he's not saying that. He's not saying that. He's saying he is called Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. Yes. So now, taking into consideration of what has been said here by Ibn Arabi, Imam W.D. Muhammad has said, Abraham is just a means for communicating to us. It's just a means for communicating to us, not his personal problem. But the problem for man in the history of the search for the authority. Sultan Tawheed, the search for the authority that should rule or govern his life or should rule over his government. We can say over his government, which would be over his people, over his ummah. This is Imam Abdi Muhammad. Yes. Go back, listen to the recording, you'll see the contrast that we're making here. And I can say, but whether they listen, this is good for many. This is good for many or in the African American Muslim community. As the Ummah followers of Muhammad the Prophet, the African American who makes up an Ummah following Prophet Muhammad. And within that Ummah, there may be various Jama'ah. I believe this is good for them. That's why I'm talking so much. So now we're looking at Hanif. Let's go back to the verse so we see where we're at now. We said Qanitan, Hanifan. Let's look at Hanifan. First, let's look at how Aragib defines Hanifan. He says El-Hanafu. It's based upon the internal noun El-Hanafu. The meaning is. So he says, Huwa maylun. It is an inclination on it, dalali, away from error, straying, ila to el-istiqamati, towards uprightness. That's why we say Hanif is the upright. But he has the tendency, the inclination to steer away from error. And he has the inclination to always be upright. Hanifan. Ibn Arabi, he says, Ma'ilan. Hanifan, Ma'ilan. Mailu. That's where Ma'ilan, for Mailu. Ma'ilan an kulli batilan. He has the inclination away from all falsehood. Dalala. Very similar to Raga. These are sources we're looking at. Very similar. Hatta until that stirring away wujudihi of his existence, wa wujudi kulli ma sawahu, and the existence of everything that's been made equal to him. See how we have Qanitan? Think about what we said about Qanitan just now. Now we have Hanifan. Now you go back in the verse, read the verse in context. Don't just take the word Qanitan and say, oh, that's shirt. The way you define that shirt. No. Because now we're saying Hanifan. Qanitan Hanifan. So Hanifan is having the inclination to go away from anything that's falsehood. Anything that would make his existence, anything of our scientific findings that we want to associate or give association with Allah, we turn away from it. Turning away from it upon its establishment, upon establishing that as a relationship that we're going to show in association with Allah. See, so if you didn't get Qanitan in the first, you get Hanifan. and you have the tendency, istiqamah, to be upright. This Hanifan. Very broad concept. Imam W. Muhammad is the one is speaking of Hanifan. He said the Hanif people, in the plural they're called Hunafat. And there were Hanif people during the time of Muhammad the Prophet, the President, peace be upon all of the prophets. The Hanif people are those who believe in their human nature, fitra, who believe in their human nature. We can go to the Quran and find fitra being one of the key words that give us the conceptual idea of Hanif. When we start reading the Quran in its wholeness, we want to get to where we're beginning to read the Quran within the Quran. Read the Quran with the Quran in its wholeness. Yes, we can get there. I'm not saying I'm there, but I'm trying to get there. And they believe in just being the best of their human nature. The best that their human nature would allow or encourage them to be. This is Hanif. This is Abraham, because Abraham is Hanifan. Maybe that's why everybody loves Abraham so much. Is that Abraham is the one who stayed the best to his human nature, the nature that he was born in. Never having a tendency for anything false or had a tendency for error. Just following the nature that Allah created him in. My own nature, my own creation. The one who created me, fatarani. The one who created me, fatarani. We say khalaqani in the Quran and fatarani. Fatarani. The one who created me gave me my own nature will guide me because I can be guided aright by my own human nature. This is Hanif people. They believe in their own human nature. That if they stay into their own human nature and didn't allow anything to influence them out of it, then they will have the tendency to be upright. Always be upright. This is Hanif. And we're seeing what we can see what Raga, Ibn Arabi, and the Imam. And these are scholarly people. Raga, a lot of people use Raga. A lot of scholars use Raga as a dictionary, Quranic dictionary. And I've said Ibn Arabi, one of the greatest thinkers in the annals of Islam. Ibn Arabi, he's not a small person. They call him the big sheikh. The people who have been influenced as a community by Ibn Arabi calls him the big sheikh. They called him that then, they called him that today. The people studying Ibn Arabi calls him the big sheikh. So we're making a contrast with the Imam and the big sheikh, the grand sheikh, the big sheikh. Sheikh Kabir, the big sheikh. Yes. This is good for you. For me too, but it's good for us. We have to come out of the small thinking. Okay. When we talk about leaders. At Shirku, now we get Mushrikeen. The last part is Mushrikeen. As Mushrikeen. See, we take the ideas now. We're getting the ideas. We got to put it up. What's the idea we got of Ummah? What's the idea we get of Qanitan? What's the idea we're getting of Hanifan? Hold it together as we're reading the verse. Hold it all together. See, just one verse. Look how much one verse is saying. And then, وَلَمْ يَكُوا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. What is the mushrik? Mushrikeen or mushrik. The eternal noun he's given is as-shirkatu Wa al-musharakatu. The meaning is going to come out of these two internal nouns. And the meaning he's given is halatu al-malakaini. It's the mixing of two masters. Let me translate it like that. Since we're talking about Abraham, maybe some of the Christians that listen in, and there are some Christians that listen to the presentation also. I try not to disrespect anyone when I'm talking. I try not to disrespect another religious group. I try not to disrespect another Muslim group, religious group, what have you. I try hard not to disrespect anyone. That's how I am. I don't want to disrespect. But I surely recognize the language, two masters. I believe the saying is you can't serve two masters. Halatu melakaini. The mixing of two masters. وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. So مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. بِنِسْبَةِ الْوُجُودِ. By association or by relating the relationship of the existence. Where ta'athiri. Now, one of the students, we had this in the class, one of the students brought it up. See how I'm trying to stay consistent with this idea of athara, ta'athir, in terms of influence. And the influence. The existence and the influence ila ghayri. To something else, to something other. He just gives it, this is Ibn Arabi now. The relationship of the existence and the influence to something else. Speaking of Allah, Ibrahim is not one of those. So in conclusion, the Imam is saying, to this, the Mushrikeen, we see Abraham as a human being, a great thinker, searching for a certain truth and proof of what should rule the life of man and his society. Similar to what we're saying. He sees the things that man has had trouble with. Dispositions in the reasoning of man that brought him to believe that he, man, is God. This has happened in religion after Ibrahim. Enough said. I thank you for your time. Assalamu alaikum.